Welcome to the final week of Ascend. Welcome to, tomorrow we have ukulele. You're teaching ukulele. And then after that, I'm teaching booking with Tori. And then we talk about being full-time missionaries on Friday and then how to be fully funded. And then it's over. This is the last class on music production. Can you believe it? We finally did it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about how to produce an album. Now, so far, Justin, I have Justin Kalea Okolani Lalimu, our keyboardist here, who's also a co-producer. He's written and arranged quite a few songs on our albums over the years, from Avion's Let It Go to Four Corners, so many others, countless ones, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the most popular ones? Probably What a Beautiful Name is one of the most popular ones.
How Great Is Our God.
Hosanna.
Hosanna.
And so on and so forth. Justin, all these ideas came from your beautiful mind, and today we're going to talk about producing. And so as we talk about production, I want to dance back and forth between a song or an idea, a production tip, and what it is to really be a producer. So let's start off with, let me play a song here, and I'm going to teach you a tip first. Okay, here it is. So this is the song Imigongo, and I'm going to screen share if I'm not already, and screen sharing on. Okay, here we go. Hopefully you can see this. I'm going to play a section of Imigongo and a little fun tip. Here we go. This is... Did you hear what just happened? The whole track went, Giro. I'll play it again. So I did that for emphasis. We also did that in Trailblazers. And I want to show you how to do that really quick. So it's a simple tip here. Okay. So what I do is I find a section of the song. Right? Okay, this is a scratch vocal. I'm going to hide that scratch vocal because it's... Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to play you what it sounds like, okay? So this is the section right here. Right? That's the end of a bridge. And so what I did was I highlighted this section like this. I highlighted the entire section that I liked, and then I bounced it down. And to do that in Digital Performer, that is Control J. And then I added it. I imported it back into the sequence, added it to the sequence there. Okay, see that? And then I could just call it, bounce or whatever. So I do that, right? In this case, I already did it. And so this is the section right now. Okay, so what you don't hear, I already cleaned out the other area, but once I bounced it down, I then deleted everything below it. So I'm going, now when you bounce it down, you have to bounce it down with the master fader at 0, okay? And when you do that, once you add the new one and delete the old, right here, I'm going from full band to just one track, and you can't tell the difference. So you got to make sure the mix is right as well. Okay, so the next thing that I did was I decided that I was going to cut off a piece of it, as you can see right here. I cut off the second half. So let's listen to that. Right? It's out. Okay. And then what I did was I took that extra piece, and I'll just do it for you. I took that extra piece, I added put it on a new track, and then I essentially stretched it like that, okay? I stretched it to make it, now just listen to what this sounds like. Right? Not that exciting. But I stretched it to make it seem like it's, when something slows down, it slows down. Not just in volume in pitch, but also in timing. So I'm dealing with the timing first. I just slowed it down, and that's what you can hear if you were to click on one of these guys. Right? Okay, now how did I get this to then pitch down? Well, what I did was I clicked on the pitch tool, and I can show you how to do it right here. So I'll do it with this one right here. This is essentially, I stretched it a little bit, and then I would take it to pitch. You can do this also in any sort of auto-tune program. I have to find the actual pitch somewhere. There it is. The notes. I can scroll them down. You see that? Now I can see where the notes are doing this already, and then all I do is I just click on the P, and I just make it do this, right? And now all of a sudden it's going to completely sound different. In this case, I've already done it, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to now show you what it sounds like with the slowdown. Okay, so this is the cut-off one going into the slowdown. Here we go. Okay, actually, sorry, this is the slowdown one going into it. Oh, sorry. No, that was the one. Okay, so it's like this. So I have a little delay on it. I added more effects to it. And what do I have in those effects? Let's see here. Slow down effect 1, slow down effect 2. Okay, so on one of them, I have a vocal finalizer, which is really fun effect there. And it's on Sombrero Galaxy. It's just a preset. And on the other one, I have this delay, chung, 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 which is dub station. So altogether, we have this building chorus or building bridge, and then break. Okay, now that's one tip. Before I get into the next one, which is the smile. I want to teach you a few things, okay? I'm going to go back and forth because, well, I just don't want you to get super bored. What separates your song, your album, your track from every other song you've ever recorded? We were just playing a song earlier, Four Corners. You've heard Christafari do 20 plus albums. You've never heard a song start like this. The word gospel means good news, but it's not good news if it doesn't get there on time. That's why we've got to take it to the streets, to the four winds, across the seven seas. Now right there, it sounds like Christafari again. But for that moment, it's starting with a hang drum or a steel pan or a steel drum kind of a sound instrument. And Justin, you came up with that all on your own, right?
Yeah.
What were you trying to capture with that?
Was it last year? Yeah, last year. It was the first rhythm that I wrote after taking a break due to personal situations, and it's like God woke me up that day and said it's time to write, and that's the one. I just came out like guns blazing, and I can write something hard, something lovers rock, but I just went into this direction. But my thing is, how can we make this different? And this is something that we've always been stressing all month, is how to be creative and how to be unique.
Yeah.
Because everyone's already heard a freedom step or how great is our God.
I don't want to be a cover band of Christafari. People are like, how come you don't do a song like this album? Did you like the album? Yeah, I loved it. Well, great. Then listen to it. So I'm not going to try and copy that. And you didn't try and copy anything you had ever done before.
No, because as people know, I like to listen to a lot of different types of music. and I've been during that season. I've been hooked on a song. It was an EDM song, but they used a hang drum a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to the NAMM show that year, and I was with Marcus, and we were just looking at hang drums because it's kind of different from steel pans because hang drums look like a little UFO.
Yeah,
And you just hit it wherever.
Yeah, with your fingers, right?
Yeah, with the fingers. And so I found one on Logic. And for those asking, yes, it is a stock sound in Logic Pro X. So I found it, and then I just started messing with it in the beginning. So the lead sound is a hang drum, but the background is a steel pan, and I layered it. And that's how I wrote the intro for Four Corners.
That's epic. I love that. We're going to be answering all your questions later in the day. So I want you to get those questions rolling. So yeah, we want to take these songs into new directions. And so the second I heard it, dun, 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 I thought, to the four corners of the earth. Yeah. It was just literal. And then you started playing there, me travel the world, preaching the word to the far corners of the earth. It was just guttural. It just happened. It just came out of me, and I loved it. I had so much fun doing it. So when you create a song, I want you to ask yourself what separates it from everything else you've done. What elements are you going to use that you haven't used before? Where are you going to take people that you haven't taken them before? We just invited some people into my parents' house to see. One of them is an artist. I took them into every room to see my mom's paintings. She has dozens and dozens of ribbons and awards. And she has hundreds of paintings. You know what, Justin? None of them are duplicates.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are the same. So originate. Unique sonic fingerprint or thumbprint. I can turn on my computer with this. Without it, I can't. Unless I know the password. So be original. Another thing I want to teach you guys is to make safeties. So I'm going to show you how I do that. It's real simple with this. I will go into, I do this every time when I'm opening up a new file. I religiously do this. In this case, we're doing sent ones today. And this one was opened at 2 a.m. Last saved at 2 a.m. I'm going to duplicate it. Command D. And now I know that if there's a glitch or something is broken, every once in a while it happens, Justin. Actually, it's only happened probably once in our whole career, but I go to click on a file and it doesn't, the final mix doesn't work. It's corrupt. Thank God I have the one right before it, the mix A or A2 or this or that.
Yep.
So you can see in some of these other ones, let's just give you a glimpse of what we're working on. By the way, look at this. I mean, these are new songs that we're working on right now. We're always working, always recording, and there's so many more. Okay, album session. No, not that one. Going to take you into, let's take Musicianary's album maybe. No, I'm not seeing it here. This is the one. Okay, so let's take a song that we spent a good bit of time. Let's just say Outsiders, okay? So look at all these versions. These are all different versions of it that I've done. And I typically do it, this is just from when I started mixing alone. So there are so many different times when you save. Look at all these versions of Four Corners, from the very first one to the most recent. So yeah, I like to save, and I always label it what it is, you know, with this, with that, horns tuning or different things like that, drum cues. And so yeah, that's one of the things that I like to do as well with that, is not just save regularly, save because Jesus does, but also I then take a file and I will rename it, and then I'll drag it over to my primary backup, and I back up religiously Oop, didn't want to do that. Don't know what I just did there. That was a dangerous thing. So yeah, don't make a mistake like that. So yeah, I back up at the end of each session on a separate hard drive. Always back up on another hard drive. Okay, so let me teach you now how to, and if you can back up in different locations completely in the cloud, that's even better. Okay, now let me give you another tip because I want to keep this fun today. I want to go back and forth between ideas and creative things. Okay, so there's this app, this plugin that I have that I just absolutely love. And let's see if I can find it here. It is called, what is it called? Endless Smile?
Yep.
Okay, I just have to find it right around there. It is. Smile is what it's called. That's what's going on. I'm not seeing it. Okay, so it is this guy right here, and I can automate him. So instead of playing that first one, I'm going to play you a different one. Here we go, and that's the clean version you heard. But now let's hear the smile version. Check it out. Do you hear that? Isn't that insane? I'll play it again. Oh, not doing it. Not wanting to work right now. There it is. So it's a little buggy right now. Let me try and so what I'm doing here is I'm basically writing this so that this guy moves, and listen to it in a different one. Let's try the first one. This is Fist in the Air. That's nice. Let's hear another one. This is Broken Teeth, I think is the one we just chose. I love that. Data Dynamite. That one's not playing nice right now. So I'm going to go with Broken Teeth right now. And I'm going to go even further by, I'm going to add the other thing now. What it does is you can go through the presets. It's really fun. And what I really like is you can make him smile. It's just kind of rewarding as you go. And it changes everything about the song, the color, everything. And you can do all different kinds of options with it. There's another one called, what is it called?
It is called Sausage Fattener or
Sausage
Factory?
Fattener, and it's like it looks like a pickle or something. It's pretty fun as well. That it makes, we use that on the strings for What a Beautiful Name, and it kind of grunges everything. It's nice, but we tried it here and it did not work. Okay, so I'm gonna go with this one. Let's see if I can add these two together now. Okay, so that was, let's get this, let's write this again. Get this automation in. Okay, so I'm going to cut this off now, since I feel like they conflict a little bit, and I'm going to write it so that, let's try this. No, that doesn't really work. So yeah, you just kind of futz around until you figure out what you like and what you don't like. In this case, I'm going to try doing a little bit of both, and I'm going to use some crossfades. I'm going to do this and then see if I can't get this. I will spend a lot of time on this stuff. And these are production techniques that take it from just recording an idea to perfecting it. I kind of like that. What do you think, Justin? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's better.
It kind of brightens it up and then gets it dark. Ooh, there's some weird timing going on. Then how could I hear his command and never truly go? dynamics. So yeah, we're going to get into the, so it's glitching a little bit on this end because we're using something that allows you guys to hear it in stereo, which means it's a little dodgy, a bit dodgy, would you say, Justin?
Yep.
But what do you think about that section, Justin?
No, I love it. It sounds great.
And for that bridge, Avion is going to be singing this incredible vocal that I came up with last night that sounds like crud right now because I'm trying to sing it. I won't play it for you, but we use scratch vocals a lot. And that's one of the reasons why we don't like people to be passing around demos, because with our scratch vocals, we're not really caring about anything but the initial concept, getting that going.
And that's why Mark and Chiago sings Avion's parts before Avion.
Yeah. Yeah, there's quite a few Avion songs where she isn't in for sometimes 5-6 days into the song. Okay, let's talk about politics. Producing, one of the most crucial things as a producer is almost being like a counselor, a therapist, a middleman, a mediator, an arbitrator. So there's different things you have to figure out. What we talked earlier in the guitar solo section about figuring out whether somebody is getting it on the first take or the 10th take or the 100th take, or it has to be a composite, a comp. You got to figure that out. Is this person getting better or worse? And you can't say, oh, you're really sucking right now. If you say that instantly, it changes their countenance. You need to create an environment where people can create. You need to foster, encourage, build up an environment where people feel comfortable, where people are comfortable in their own skin, the way they sound. My voice, I was raised with it. I was born with it. I could try and get it better, but part of my voice is simply, this is how I am. And I can't be ashamed of that. For many years I was. For many years I was intimidated by producers that, So you have to learn how to get the best out of somebody. There have been times where I've had artists that weren't that talented, and I would have to sing their parts and then have them sing on top of me and then have to shift them to where they were in time with me and then tune them and then double them and bury it and put effects on it. I would encourage you as a producer to try and avoid taking a gig just for money.
Mm-hmm. And we did this all before tuning was a thing.
Before tuning was a thing. To be frank, I talked about tuning vocals yesterday. CHRISTAFARI for decades, 2.5 decades, 25 years, never tuned a vocal. My rule of thumb is if you can't get it right in the mic, you shouldn't be in the studio. And so that's still the same approach we have. You have to have enough talent to be in the studio, but then you still got to get it perfect so that it sounds great for people's ears. But one of the tips that I learned on recording Soulfire album was the producer, every once in a while when somebody's getting a bad take, the producer would take responsibility and they'd say, oh, I'm sorry, I got to get that again. My bad. I would say that time and time again. My bad. And after spending time in the studio, you start to realize it's not his bad. It's the other person's bad. But the way that they did it made you feel comfortable, made you feel like it wasn't always your fault. Sometimes he would even say, hey, I didn't get that take, or I forgot to record. And he actually did record, but you just want to encourage in love. You want to build up. And you do have to sit down as a producer with the artist and you have to say, who is the artist? Do you want me to be an engineer or producer? A producer determines the direction. Engineer presses buttons. we've had a few incidences. We won't get into those incidences where artists are very particular and we're producing their very first album, right, Justin?
I was thinking about that the last 5 minutes.
You're like, how do I tell this person that their idea sucks? How do I tell them they have no idea what they're talking about and that they should just go out and get lunch and come back and trust me? Or they still don't like it, and then they play it for other people, and then they realize everybody's like, oh, that idea is so much better. So pick the right people to work with and be the right person to work with. Pick the right people to work with. Remember, you're going to be sitting next to that person, sweating in a room for how long? Average album for us takes 3 months to 6 months. Average fast album, 1 month. That's 1 month of your life. That's a lot. That's a lot of hours. Be wise, too. I remember one band, I won't tell you their name, but they were one of the first ones that I produced. They came to me saying, can you produce my album? I said, I'd love to, but I'm not quite there yet. I'm still learning how to produce our Gravity album. So they hired another band, famous reggae band. You know this band. And they hired that band, and the band charged them. I would have charged them like a few $1,000s. The band charged them $20,000 or something. And then the band bought all the gear with that. Then the band produced their own album, did a few demos for these guys, and then the guys are like, hey, where's the rest of the album? Oh, we sold the gear. We need more money. I think they got another $10,000 out of them, maybe even another $10,000. By the time I inherited the album, it was just a stockpile of loops, some great ideas, some poor production. They didn't even mic the kick drum. Who doesn't mic a kick drum when you're tracking drums? It was a disaster. And they spent probably $30,000 or so for this disaster because this person didn't know what they were doing. So you have to know when you're in your depth, when you can swim, how deep you can go. And as a producer, you have to be a little bit of a politician in dealing with people. So talk with the artist, or if it's a band, watch out. Those opinions are going to be flying everywhere. I remember when we did our albums, everybody thought that their opinion was the best. And the producer, their way was the highway. That was the main one. Anything you want to add to that, Justin?
No, you said it all. But
right.
yeah, I guess through my first 2 albums up here with outside clients, it has taught me how to be patient, and it has taught me how to know exactly what I want and what I don't want, and it's taught me how to be like I know how to work with people a lot more, like knowing like whenever I work with potentially new clients, I know how to approach them because those first 2 was a big learning curve.
Yeah.
But 9 years later, we're still here. So
now, granted, a lot of the albums I've produced, I don't know, probably 60 or 80. Was with some of my best friends, and it was just great experience. But I will say that there's another side of it. Is this going to reach the light of day? Is this actually going to be heard? I remember one year you and I produced probably 3 or so albums.
Yep.
And we poured our hearts into these projects. And at the end of it all, each one of these albums, each artist did one local show at their one church, and that was it. And so here we are, having invested 3 months of our life for that one concert. Now, granted, you can stream those albums, but they're not flying off the shelves. They're not touring. They're not being promoted. There's none of that. And so there came a time when I finally said, you know what? If I produce CHRISTAFARI or Avion or this or that, I can reach a lot more people, and I can control the narrative. I can control where it goes, how far it goes. I can get it out there. And so I had to choose between producing others and producing something that would get out there. And that's the reason why we stopped producing other artists. We do songs here and there with artists, but yeah, that was now here. I don't want to complain though, because those albums paid. Those albums paid me. Those albums made it possible for me to buy all this gear, to get all these speakers, to get the computer. The computer's the most expensive thing. If you're going to be doing 60, 80, 100 tracks, stereo with all kinds of effects, you need a good computer. So they built this foundation. But at the end of it all, I learned a lot, and I learned to stay in my lane, right?
Exactly.
Anything else you learned, Justin?
No, yeah, and I was just gonna expand on that because everyone's always asking, "Hey, can you guys work on our album or our song?" But Mark has just explained to you why we respectfully and politely just stick to our projects, because
Yeah.
we're at this point where pre-COVID-19, now we're on the road every month
Yeah.
doing 20, 30 countries a year. So
And recording 2 Christafari albums a year.
exactly. So we actually don't have time
No.
to do any
No.
outside clients.
And in this year, we're probably going to record 4, maybe 5 albums. We will be productive, but yeah, we want to be in control of those albums. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this: a producer to music is like the director to film. They have to like the script, like the actors. They have to agree with the direction. And so before you produce somebody, you should have some experience. Before you produce yourself, you should be produced. I would say first album by somebody, their way goes. Second album, next to them. Third album, next to them, helping, co-producing. Fourth album, you're on your own. On the third or the fourth, you should be on your own. Our first album, Reggae Worship, somebody else produced it, but he was so drunk he never came in. Recovering alcoholic. So we learned from our engineer how to produce, and we made a lot of mistakes. Second album, produced by Mark Heimerman, produced Jesus Freak, DC Talk, Michael W. Smith, Carmen, Audio Adrenaline, everybody. He knew what he was doing. He taught us everything we knew. Third album, I co-produced with our sax player that then went on to play bass and went to Berklee School of Music. Me and him did it together. Fourth album, I did by myself. Word, Sound, and Power. Boom. Mic dropped. I knew what I was doing. That was analog, reel-to-reel tape. Fifth album, that was when we took it to the studio. That's when we're digital performer, and been doing that ever since. So they're like a director. Every once in a while you hear of a director leaving a movie because they don't agree with the direction. That kind of thing, it can happen with producing, but I wouldn't recommend you do it. Okay, let's get into, we talked about taking you somewhere. So I want to show you something that I decided to do last night. And how much time did I spend on this, Justin? Maybe an hour or more?
No, we were working for a while.
For 7 hours last night.
Yeah, got home at 9. You left at 3.
Yeah, 3 a.m. So work ethic is really, really crucial in what we do. Nobody's going to do it for you. And so work ethic is paramount. Okay, so I want to show you guys what I worked on last night. I was so inspired after we taught this class on recording vocals that I decided to start recording. So here we go. This is the intro of it, talking about taking you somewhere. Times when he showed you how to build a song, he built this song. He said, I'm going to go to Asia. And this is the intro right here. So I was in a tour bus in Rio de Janeiro. We were driving for like 5 hours, and I was watching some TV show on Amazon Prime, and they had this score, duh, 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 or duh, duh, just those two notes, duh, duh, and the score kept repeating that, and then they just left it blank. I'm like, duh, 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 dee, da, 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 dee, da, da, da. And so I just kept playing in my head. So I go to Times. I'm like, dude, I got this melody idea. It's really weird, though. I don't know if we could use it, maybe for a soundtrack, something. So I played it on a melodica for him. And then when I gave him this voice memo, we are the sent ones, sent ones. When I gave him that, he then decided to merge them. I never thought of putting them together. So when I heard that melody, this, I was instantly taken back to the water puppet theater. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
We were in the
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Took everybody to a water puppet show, and I thought, these ladies were singing as they were playing. So what if I sang? Abby's not here. Let me try singing. So I tried. I pitched it hard, and I made it very straight so you can hear some of those little things. Okay, so I decided to add that. But then I was like, you know what? It just doesn't sound right. First of all, I don't sound like an Asian lady. So like, what if I tried some different effects? Let me see what this one is. So I auditioned like a bunch. So you get the idea. I did that, and then I tried this plugin called Ovox, I think it is. Is it called Ovox? Oh man, it's fun. And I got these different things, and then I came up with this idea. Let me just solo it so you can hear it. I don't know if you heard that. It's pretty soft. Let me turn that up in the master just for a second, just so you can hear it. This is me going through Ovox. It's kind of glitching right now because it's not liking the fact that I'm trying to record all these screens at once. So I did these different things, and then at the end of it all, I put them together. I think this is what I'm trying to remember the configuration I had. I think it was this. And in there, you hear my la da da, just to add a normal voice. You hear that, yeah, I can't even sing that high. And then you hear that, you hear all three of those. And I'll give you an example also of what this sounds like. This one sounds like here. What is this called? Asia Tune. Let me see if I can't find. Oh, there it is. It's right here. Okay, no, it's not there. And Asia Tune. I'm guessing it's right there. Okay, so this is without the Ovox. I'll turn it. It's at -10.3 right now. I'm going to turn it all the way up. This is with the Ovox. So there you have it. And then I cut it off at the end. Got to take it back to the -10. Okay, and at the end I had this really long resonance. And at the end of it all, I feel like I have something that takes me somewhere. Okay, so here's my next tip. You guys ready? Music is a transportational device. Where are you going to take them? Where are they going to go? In this case, Asia. First class ticket. Preach the good news to all creation. Preach the gosh, it's lagging right now. I wish I could say it wasn't, but preach the gospel with no hesitation. Now across the sky, across. Okay, I'm just gonna play you the bounced version because it's glitching, and like I said, I wish it wasn't, but this is what happens when you take your new computer and use it instead for video in a different location. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we're recording 3 things right now.
We're recording 3 things right now. What are we recording at this very second?
Audio, video, and the Zoom stream. So, yeah.
So here it is. This is the song. That's not it. Okay, so why?
Okay, close iTunes. I'll show you how to do it.
I have to right click.
Yeah. Open.
I have to open one.
Gosh, I don't know if it's gonna work.
The problem was the default was QuickTime, and I'm recording video and audio on QuickTime.
That's right.
So we played that. Preach the good news to all creation. Preach the gospel with no hesitation. Now across the sky, across the sea, across the land, we bring this message of salvation. We are God sent to people on every continent, to every color, every creed, on every race. Yes, we are God sent to every tongue and accent, and it no matter what the color of your face. We are the sent ones to the whole of creation. Yes, we are the sent ones to every nation, to tell them about Jah, tell the human race, tell them about Jesus, His love and His grace. Little instrumental turnaround here. So it's verse, B section, chorus 2, or turnaround, instrumental, verse 2. So we are sent by God to bring them hope from Zion, sent to the earth to see the weak done strong, preach them and teach them with this instruction. Yes, this is the plan of the Son of Man. We are God sent to people on every continent, to every color, every creed, on every race. Yes, we are God sent to every tongue and accent, and it no matter what the color of your face. We are the sent one. And that's what I want to take you to next.
So I just realized
What's that?
Yeah, this times is great with the music with taking you somewhere. And just to give the listeners some context, I usually keep my one-liners when I'm off the mic or off camera. I'm usually on the bed against the wall co-producing, but as I'm listening to this song, I'm like, dang, this is like the verse is as if Bob Marley and Bruce Lee had a bowl of noodles in downtown Tokyo.
Bob Marley and Bruce Lee, and they're both slurping on the same noodle, and they're getting closer and closer. That doesn't sound right. Okay, so let's talk about this. What you just heard, you may be like, well, that song sounds great. Is it done, Justin?
Not even close.
But it sounds great. Why don't we just put it out?
That's what I used to say, like as early as 5 years ago. But there's a formula that we do, and Mark, don't feel free to cut me off. But
go.
When I did Backslider a few years ago, we all did say, "Oh, this sounds great," and we were going to release it because Mark was in Bermuda and I was in Hawaii, and we were like, "Great, let's do it." But then after running it through Avion and Chiago, we just needed to keep the CHRISTAFARI formula correct, and we needed to get Tyrone up on it and get Avion playing bass. So as much as the demos from Times and I sound great, we end up re-recording bass and guitar, and 9 times out of 10 adding a live drum kit.
Yep. And horns.
Yep, and horns too.
So for me right now, if we ended up going with the drums, I'd be fine. But we may end up replacing those. That is going to be a few hours in the studio. That'll probably be 4 hours of me editing the drums, plus the mixing of the drums. And so that's at least one full day. Retracking bass, adding more guitar. We always hand it back to times when we have the structure. I've edited the structure a few times, and I'm going to edit it a few more times to get it to flow the best. And then I'm going to do percussion. That's going to take an evening to track and edit the percussion. Then I'm going to go over to my sound effects, and I'll give you an example of that.
But I just realized we did break that formula 2 months ago when we recorded Pandemic.
Pandemic we did in 5 days from beginning to end, but that was about 4 days of, there was no live drums, pretty much everything else. In this case, we don't need horns, I don't think, but I may want to add them. Just something, it's kind of nice to add those horns. So that means sending them over and then getting them back and then editing them and then mixing them and then bouncing them. By the way, I like to bounce. Like I'll take those vocals, send ones. There's Avi's doing, as you saw, like 5 different parts in that. I like to get not just my voice and Avian's voice, but one other voice in there to give it a fullness. And then once I get the perfect mix, maybe some automation, I bounce them down to one stereo. And then I just deal with it. I like that concept. I learned that concept from one of the best albums in the history of producing, Sgt. Pepper's. 4 tracks. Create on 3, bounce to 1. Now you got 1 track, you can't. Now you create on 2, bounce those 2 with that 3rd one to 1, etc., etc. And you keep going and you keep going. It changes the dynamics. It changes everything. It paints you into a corner, and you have to deal with it. You have to make the right decisions now, because the mix later will be completely determined by the bouncing you do now. But I love that. I love that decisiveness. I love that.
You do something similar with the horns too, right?
I bounce the horns to 1. I bounce the drums to 1. I bounce, of course, the basses. Those are the ones, and then all the background vocals to 1 for each section. For the chorus, they'll be bounced to 1. For this, they'll be bounced to 1, etc., etc. So another thing that I'll do is I'll go into this, and I'll go into my loops, and I'll find something, and I'll just be like, you never know what it could be. It could be, tabla groove. It could be, it could be that. It could be, what are some other ones here? I'm looking at, these are all loops and samples that I've just created over the years. These are all things that I like. That going into a chorus. There's so many things like that. One that I use all the time is this one. And you'll hear that in this song right before the second chorus. Listen to this break.
Agreed on every race. Yes, we are set to every tongue and accent. On it, no matter what the color of your face.
Sorry, it's, you know what? I'm just going to play it from this. It's so much easier. Here it is.
Yes, no matter what the on every race. Yes, we are God set to every tongue and accent. On it, no matter what the color.
You see that? That's a Grampian snare, I call it. So things like that. And another thing that I'll do then, Justin, as you know, is I have this technique of a song isn't perfect when nothing more can be added. A song is perfect when nothing more can be taken away. I'm going to say that again. A song isn't perfect when, oh, I can't add anything else. I can't fit anything else on it. A song is perfect when I can't take anything else away. At any given time, there should be 5 things, and no more than 5 things prominently happening. And so I strip things down. You'll notice a lot of times in my second or third verse, we'll go to, Justin knows it, drum and bass.
Yeah, drum and bass.
I'll pull into rhythm, chank, chank. I try and have certain things featured, like the bass featured on its own for a section, and etc. So go through that and figure out, and then I'll add these sound effects. I'll add the horns. I'll edit them. I'll finalize the vocals. Make sure the vocals are tuned. Make sure they're comped. Then and only then will I mix, and I will get rid of stuff. I will get it down to the final mix. I'm happy. I'll go home. I'm not happy. I listen to it driving home. I listen to it in different speakers. I listen to it just playing out loud on my phone. I listen to it on my earbuds. I listen to it. I have a little boombox, the Sony boombox. It actually has a tape player in it. I will listen to it through that from right here. I have that as an option as well. I listen to it through all these different things, headphones at home, and then I'll come back with my changes. A good mix has no changes. I do that. 1 out of 10 songs on an album is done in the first mix, maybe 20. So I will push through, and I will continue to mix until I'm happy with it. And so then when I'm done mixing, there's still a lot more to be done, right? A lot more. So you have to learn how to handle your time budget. Okay, what is a producer? The first thing that I think of is someone that budgets. What is it? What do I mean by that, Justin?
Yeah, budgeting the time.
And the finances.
Yeah.
So, you don't decide that you're going to hire a $1,000 bagpipe player on the last day of the recording because you need something. You budget. So handle your time and your budget and deliver on time. I'm going to talk about that a lot. Okay? Average album, 3 months for us. Average song, 3 minimum days. 7 days is common. So do the math. That's a week. If you have 15 songs on an album, that's 15 weeks of work. Imagine that. And we're touring the world, and we're doing 2 albums a year. So I'm going to give you some quotes, and then I'm going to get you a really fun tip on how to get a wicked bass sound, okay? Quote number 1 is, be tenacious. Think of it like a pit bull that just holds on and doesn't let go. Okay, there's a phrase, I think it was Mary Poppins, that said, well begun is halfway done. That means if you start well, you're halfway there. That's not the case with an album, guys. It's a case daily for the album. A little more each day. You have to apply that principle. So I'm going to give you some quotes right now. Getting an idea should be like sitting on a pin. It should make you jump up and do something. So as a producer, you should be, I had this idea yesterday. I want to sing high. Okay. I did a spectral effect and I came into the studio and did it. That idea should encourage you to go and do. As an artist, you need to build your own home studio. You need to demo your own stuff. And you should get somebody to produce you on your first and at least your second album. Here's another quote. Following through is the only thing that separates dreamers from people who accomplish great things. Dreamers from people who accomplish great things. I think of rappers out there. You may not think that P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean John, whatever his name is this week, is the most talented, but a lot of times hard work, work ethic, stick-to-itiveness is interpreted as talent, and he has that in spades. Starting is not most people's problems. Everybody has no problem starting something. Staying, continuing, and finishing is. If you procrastinate, When you face a big, difficult problem, break the problem into parts and handle one part at a time. So I don't focus on the, oh my gosh, I got to finish an album. No, I got to just have fun and start writing a song and then do the next. Then I'm going to do bass today on the song, or I'm going to track vocals today. Tonight, I will track my wife singing the bridge of this song. My advice is to never do tomorrow what you can do today. Procrastination is the thief of time, Charles Dickens says. Anything worth putting off is worth abandoning altogether. So if you're going to put something off, just don't even worry about it. Don't even do it. There are two fatal errors that keep great projects from coming to life: not finishing, not starting. If you start, you don't finish, nobody will ever hear it. Ferocious concentration and fanatical execution is what you need to finish strong. A perfect method for adding drama to life is to wait until the deadline looms large. I have to pay taxes. I have to finish my taxes. It was keeping me up last night. If I had finished it in January, I wouldn't be worried about it. So the best way to add drama to your life is to wait until the deadline comes. There's nothing so fatal to character as half-finished tasks. The least productive people are usually the ones that are most in favor of holding meetings. Listen to this. If you know somebody who always wants to have meetings, they're probably the least productive people. Okay, just a few more, just two more. You will be judged by your results and how you bring things to an end. Therefore, finish strong. As a producer, you're only as good as your last album or your last few albums. How did you finish them? Did you finish them strong? Much of the stress that people feel doesn't come from having too much to do. It comes from not finishing what they've started. And that's something that I saw when I moved to Trinidad. See, I've always been a doer. I've had a hard time finishing, I'll be frank. I have a book that I haven't finished writing from 25 years ago. I have projects that I still need to finish. I need to preach this to myself. But when I went to Trinidad, it was a whole different level. I would go to an album release concert. Time and time again, various artists, different artists did this album release concert. I'd go and I'd say, where's the album? Oh, it's not done yet. But we have this poster. Like, what? You know, it just mesmerized me. And it happened so many times. On to another tip here. Okay, so in this song, as we step into the last verse here.
Every creed on every race. Yes, we are God sent to every
It is so awful.
tongue and accent. And it no matter what the color on your face.
Okay, so it's going, oh, woo, whoa, whoa. And so what I did for that one, let's see if I can't find it here. Let me solo it just so you can hear what is going on. So this is a bass. This is the normal bass. And this is the bass with effect. Listen to it. Normal bass, now bass with effect. Now, Justin will testify to this. Yesterday, well, a week ago, I went in and as you can see here, I created a bunch of presets. Wah bass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All using different ones. Mobius was one of them. Phase 3 was another. An auto wah. I'm using some sort of auto wah filter that filters out the frequencies, but basically a wah wah pedal is moving from the lows to the highs, right? So it's changing the EQ. It's not changing the pitch. It's not changing. It changes the tone more so. So Like, that's what a wah wah is. Okay. So it's kind of doing that, but more of an AM to the, lower and mids. So I started messing around with these, and I tried. Justin will tell you, I auditioned all 11 of them last night before I settled on this one. And for me, I think being willing to spend that time, which is why you should never have a clock in your studio. You need to not care about how much time it takes to get the take right.
That's why we go overtime when we teach, because there's no clock.
Doing it right now. Here we go. Another thing is, we got creative on. I remember when we were doing vocals for Soulfire, I was singing into an SM57 that was then going and being amplified into the bathroom in the tub and being picked up by a baby monitor, old school cruddy sounding baby monitor. And then that was then being again, no, I was syncing a baby monitor, and then it was being received on the other end by a baby monitor into an SM57. So we were using a baby monitor, a bathroom, and an SM57, and it created this kind of speakerphone kind of vibe, and I loved it before we could spend a lot of money for plugins like that. Spend the time getting creative. Do something original. I remember one time I put a carpet all across the drum kit and just had them hit hard, and I'd never done that before, and that song sounded unlike any other song. So that's part of it. So this is what the end result was.
Yes, we are God sent to every tongue and accent. On it, no matter what the color of your face. We are the sent one.
Was it worth it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, for 2 measures? Here, this is what I have on it. Ultimately, I have a low pass filter. I have this thing called a filter shaper. Oh, this thing is so much fun. Filter shaper. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, filter shaper by the Cable Guys. And then I have this EQ. So emphasizing the mids and de-emphasizing. This is the area the bass is typically strong in. And then I add a reverb, and that reverb is right here. And then I add a delay, which is right here. So that's the dub station 1.5. And I think what ends up happening is I turn on the delay right before. So let's watch and see if this knob is turning this one right here. Yeah. So I automated it. So now would normally never ever. First time I've ever put delay on bass before. I tried it. I dissed a producer for doing that on our first album. But when it's AM, it's kind of fun. So be creative with those ideas. Don't be afraid to spend time learning. Never stop learning. I want to teach you a lesson also. A righteous man keeps his word even when it hurts. I've worked with a lot of artists over the years, worked with a lot of producers over the years. So in the last 30 years, I could give you story after story about good producers, bad producers. I'm going to tell you about one. I won't tell you which country they were in. I won't tell you what year it was, what anything it was. But it was one of my worst experiences ever. They were super creative and super fun to work with in person. And what we did on those days were some of the best work that I've ever done. It fostered such creativity within me that seriously, I was like just on cloud 9 while working with this producer. So much so that I gave this producer a bunch of songs and said, hey, can you, here's our recordings of these songs. We've done everything on them. Revamp them. I trust you. And took a year and a half to finally get the tracks from the producer. It took hundreds of touches, reaching out to that person, hundreds of times of calling, of texting, of trying to reach this person through different apps and different ways. So much so I had to reach out to the friends. I tried to find the person's pastor to get that person involved. It got to the point where the song couldn't be on the first album. Then the song could be on the next album. Then the song was almost not going to be on the next album. In fact, I think one or two of these songs had never made an album because of this producer. They created this incredible environment in the moment, but the follow through was rubbish. It got this bad. I'm going to confess something. I couldn't sleep at night. I felt like I had no power. I had paid this person. I paid them what every other producer was getting at the time. They had agreed to it, and having tracked all the stuff already, they had barely any work. I got to the point where I told the producer I wouldn't eat anymore. I would be on a hunger strike. I would be fasting and praying for them to finally get me the tracks. And it still took some time. When I finally got the tracks back from the producer, 99.9% of the track was exactly what we did and what we gave that producer. So I threw away money, I threw away time. So be very, very cautious who you work with. What is their follow through? There's an album, a very, very, very famous album. Guns N' Roses. You may know them from albums like Appetite for Destruction or things like that. But in the 90s, they took a little bit of break from recording and toured. And when they finally started recording their next album, it took 11 years. 11 years for one album. Do you know how much this thing went through? 15 studios. Was re-recorded again and again and again. Crazy amount of producers that ended up taking it, and then they fired them, and taking it and fired them, and everybody's opinion. Everybody had an opinion, and everybody else's opinion stunk, and their opinion was the best. At the end of it all, do you know how much this 11-year-long album, 11 years to record, you know how much it cost? $13 million. Million dollars. Don't be that kind of producer. A righteous man keeps his word even when it hurts. So here's a Bible verse for you. Luke 14:28. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost and see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying this person began to build and was unable to finish. For this verse alone, I never advertise the release date of an album until it's already been submitted and accepted by DistroKid, by our CD manufacturer. Don't be the boy who cries wolf. Don't be the person who says the album's coming on this day. I remember Stephen Marley had one called Got Reggae. They even sent out CD samplers and promoted it for probably years. Steel Pulse, how long did it take them to come out with an album? Probably over a decade. Sade, 9 years in between an album. Don't be that person who takes too long. Never officially announce your release date until the album has been submitted and accepted. All right. So, anything else you want to add to that, Justin?
No, you covered it all right there.
So this song, though you may think it's done, is so far from done. And each one of these takes time. Like this is Avian Blackman's Moment to Pray. It's all about capturing the vibe. So get your questions ready. I'm going to continue to go down. This song is Moment to Pray, and make sure that when you start producing, that you take a moment to pray at the beginning of each session, that you do that. Listen to this. Let's get to it. Take a moment to pray. Do it for Jesus. Produce for Jesus. I've done stuff for the world. I've done stuff that's been on TV, movies, film. It pays lucratively. It pays well. But it doesn't pay you anything in heaven. It doesn't get anybody in heaven. And that money will be here today, gone tomorrow. Do it for Jesus. All out for Jesus. So how do we do it? We start off saying, okay, let's demo. My favorite part. First 2 hours of just creating a song from scratch. Go through all my song ideas, figure out the ones that I think are the most complete, that are the strongest. We demo them. You can demo them in live if you play them live. You could demo them during sound check, jams, band practice. Just use your phone to demo it. And then you may ask, is there going to be a cover song on this album? If so, you'll use DistroKid. You can't change the lyrics. You can change the music, but not the lyrics. And then, are there any duets, special guests? Get those started first. It's going to take a long time to get something from another artist. Wow, we tried hard to get things from other artists that didn't ever work out because of their schedule. The more you choose from for an album, the more amount of songs you choose from, the better. I've heard that U2 picks from about 100 songs. And then you have to ask yourself, as a producer, is it going to be a single, an EP, maybe 4 to 6 songs, an LP, which would be 8 to 12 or 15 or 19 if you're CHRISTAFARI? Is it for vinyl? If you ever want to print it for vinyl, you don't want to go more than about 45 minutes of music. And obviously streaming is, you know, narrow it down to the best, however many tracks that is. The best. And then focus on those. Get the opinions of as many people as possible. Figure out which song or songs have the most potential. Don't rely just on your mom's opinion. Figure out your financial and time budget. What are they? Count the cost before. Be generous with both, because albums always take longer and cost more. We always have a firm deadline of a release. In this case, the release for Avian's album, the street date is this Friday. Tomorrow night, the release date of finishing the graduation day for Ascend. We usually have the release date the first day of a tour or the major show of a tour. Pick a release date that is further than you think you need. Always takes more time. Producer is often the financial manager, the budget, the person who handles all of that. If you're not good at that, get somebody else to help you with that, if you're not gifted in that way. Now that you've chosen demos, finalize the song structure, laid down the click tracks, and use a scratch vocal and maybe a keys. We don't spend too much time working on the scratch vocal. One take, rough sketch of the song, and then eventually you're going to replace any instruments that you have with the final instruments. So this is how we do it. Justin and I will sit down. I'll have him chank, or even build a rough version of the song. We'll send that version off to the drummer. We'll then lay down the click track. We'll meld those two songs together. We'll get rid of the drums. We'll give him, the drummer and the studio that we track drums in, a vocal cue 1, chorus 2, 3, 4, break 2, 3, 4, song ends 2. We'll do those kind of cues, steppers 2, 3, 1 drop 2. We'll do those kinds of cues. I'll lay down he'll have a scratch vocal, he'll have the cues, he'll have the instruments, less the drums. He'll have the click track. We'll track that until it's flawless. Then we'll listen to just the drums. Then we'll comp down the drums and choose between probably the 3 best takes for each drum fill. Then I'll edit the drums. Then we'll track bass, edit the bass, keys. They're MIDI, thank God. If they're not, if he does,
some of them is MIDI.
If he uses piano or Wurlitzer or Rhodes in the studio or organ, I have to move those around visually. Then percussion, then vocals, then background vocals, then horns. So let me show you something here. This is something that I work off of. Justin will tell you, look at this. It's a disaster. You know what I love about it, though? This is accomplishment. This right here is our album for Musicianaries. You can see all the tracks that I had to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a lot of tracks. And each one of these, we had to do scratch, we had to do click, we had to do send it off to our guitarist, have him do that, do horns, do drums, drum edit, bass, all these things all the way down. Tuning the horns. David Fohe comes in and sings BGVs with us. Lead vocals. These are all check marks we do for each album. De-essing, tuning, BGV edit. I mix 1, I mix 2. Sometimes there's some mixed notes in a final one. And then we do something called, once all of that is done, there's just so much stuff that needs to be done in all of this. Once that's done, you work on what we call white sheets, which is who wrote what. Typically work that out, half as music, half as lyrics. Essentially, then I register that with BMI, ASCAP, or whatever. So these are all things, just looking down this, strip it down to when nothing else can be taken away, as I said before. Get opinions, listen in different places, bounce down the mix, and then go on vacation. I like to do that a lot, Justin. I leave town for a weekend or whatever, get perspective. Sometimes I'll go on tour, come back, and then listen and say, was I thinking right when I was doing this? Back up the project, the entire project in multiple places. Once you're completely satisfied, here's a list of things to bounce down. You ready? Your final mix. Your final mix with the vocals, lead vocals up 2 dBs. Vocals down 2 dBs. Vocal only for remixes for DJs. I call this acapella. Instrument only. Performance tracks or TV tracks. That would be the whole song without the lead vocal. Drumapella. Do you need it for remixes? I don't know. Just drums and voice. Synthapella. We did a few mixes like that. What songs did we do that for?
We did that for Oceans.
Waymaker also.
Yeah.
Just ambient or sometimes just acoustic version. Alternate language versions. Are you going to do this in Spanish, in Portuguese, in English? Stems for backing tracks. Multitracks.com. If you want to submit the album or project to multitracks.com so worship leaders can do it, go for that. Stems are also good for Ableton. And then there's click track, bouncing tracks. So what we do for our click track, let me see if I can find you a click really quick. I just rhymed. Just to give you an example of what is behind the curtain here. So this is, I hope that this will work. Okay, so this is Outsiders. This is what you will hear us playing to live. Outsiders. 1, 2, 3, 4. Gonna fast forward a little bit. Horns. Fast forward. Fill into verse. Drum and bass. This one's for the fringe. To those who don't fit in. I'm actually singing to the end break. Back in. Shanks, this one's for us fools.
You hear the chants?
For breaking all the rules. Because your rules. Now you notice there's no bass in here. There's no drums in here. There's no chank that Justin's playing. And we're playing to that. Victims of tradition. On the outside looking in, this is what we're hearing in our head. Surrounded by suspicion. In our ears. Accused of being sin. Chorus. So because we don't travel with horns right now, that's basically what we're hearing there. You wouldn't know that. Nobody else would know that. And if our engineer does it right, this is how everybody in the industry is doing it right now. So we have in-ears, we're hearing that, but we actually don't really hear those cues anymore. We don't hear that click anymore. But do you want to bounce that down? And then there's a radio edit, and then there's dub version. Are you going to dub it? Then there's mastering. Then there's song order. Then there's finalizing the song's album credits. It takes that took me a few days to do that for Avion's album. Of course, album cover, typing up all the lyrics, putting the lyrics up on DistroKid. As I said, submitting it for BMI with percentages or ASCAP or CSAC, and then submitting it for DistroKid, and then putting up lyric videos on YouTube if you're going to do it. And then the last most important thing, you ready? Apologize to the fans for releasing your album late. Because chances are it's still going to be one of those Chinese democracies. So until you have it submitted and it's been accepted in all the stores, don't do a countdown. Then you may do a countdown, 5 days, in our case, 2 days left, or actually a day and a half left until Avion's Fly album is out. By the way, you can get that album for free if you donate today, CHRISTAFARI.com/donate. But give yourself a buffer. If you want to do vinyl, it's going to take you like 2 to 3 months to get it manufactured. CDs, at least a month. Online, if you want to do it right, at least a month. Instantly start working on the next project the second you're done. Don't wait 2-3 years. No. Your fans, if they like you, they're going to want more and more, right? You don't eat at your favorite restaurant and then not eat there for 3 years. No, you go back. So keep that in mind. All right. So anything you'd like to add to that, Justin?
No, that's about it. You covered it all right there.
First 15 seconds of any song, people are going to decide if they're favorable for it. First minute and a half, whether they're going to listen to the rest. First 3 songs on the album, better be your best. Better be your best. If you're mixing, don't bring something up just a little bit. If you need to hear more vocals, 2 dBs is the audible difference that the ear can tell. So when you're recording, ask yourself these questions when somebody's singing. Is it in tune? Is it on time? Is the right take? The best delivery of the words? The right intonation? The right pentameter? Does it fit perfectly in the song? Does it rub you wrong? Sometimes I have no reason why I'm saying, no, that's not the one. It just doesn't say, this is the album. This is the album. That's what it needs to say when you're doing that. All right? If you're doing an album with another person, use DistroKid, and you can split royalties through DistroKid, which is great. They'll pay the other person half, or you half, whatever the percentage is. Do that. I recommend that. But just like I've said before, in the past, get the listener to the right destination. You're the pilot. Music is a transportational device. And in this case, everything we do right now should be for Jesus. This isn't Little League. This is the Olympics. Do it for the King of all kings, with excellence, with quality. Another fun thing you can do is reverse beats. You know, you can just flip a beat around. Let's do that for a second. Let's see if this thing's gonna let me do it. This is a fun thing that I like to do. I got this idea from 21 Pilots, I think it is. Listen to other people, get ideas. Okay, let's see here. This is gonna open up to questions in just a second. No, this has got to be it. Maybe. No.
No matter what the color of your face, we are.
Okay, so again, we're dealing with some weird issues because I'm trying to record too many things at once here. So my computer's saying I've had enough, but I want to show you just a simple thing of how we can do this. We have the drum beat here, if it'll ever let me get to it. Wow, you see this? It's just bugging out. Okay, there it is. Zoom in on that, and I've got 2 hits, and these 2 hits look like this. So I think that's really cool, but we could also try this and cut them each. I'm going to make them each a little bit longer. I'm going to put them on their own track, a similar track just like the other one. And I'm going to do this for the sake of the fact that I want these guys to be a little bit longer for each, okay? Okay, so now in this case, I'm going to click on this and click on this. I'm going to Apple S or Command S, and here we go. Going into Apply Plugin. Going to go to Reverse. I'm going to click on that. It's up here. I'm going to apply it for both. And now they're both being reversed, okay? Now, here's the thing though. They're no longer on the beat. They're way off. So now I got to basically make each one kind of hit on the beat there. And in this case, I'm going to put them on their own track. Let's try this. Drag this guy down, because I'm going to add a little bit of delay and reverb to it just to make them beautiful. And I don't know if this is going to work or not, guys. And that's one of the things about producing as well. It's just realizing that, man, it may or may not work. You need to be able to try new things. So I'm trying a little bit of a fade here. I'm going to use this as I'm going to fade this guy in. Let's hear what this sounds like. I like that already. Okay, that's very nice. So here we go. Now I'm gonna turn. This is gonna be called Reverse SN, and gonna add a little bit of this delay to it. This verb and this delay. It's a big reverb and a big delay. Okay, let's see what we got here. No, I'm going to change it to this one. Sorry, 10. And let's see how these guys sound. Again, it's going to be delayed. Weird timing.
Yes, we are God sent to every tongue and accent. On it, no matter what the color of your face. We are descent.
Now I'm going to do something else. You ready? I'm going to duplicate that. And I'm going to now use panning. Okay, I've got these two. And I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make them hard left, hard right. And I don't know if you're going to have these in stereo for you, but it should be left, right. And let's see.
To every tongue and accent. On it, no matter what the color of your face. We are descent.
Yeah, it weirded out my voice.
No matter what the color of your face. We are descent.
There it is. It's delaying my voice. It's weird. but I have so many effects on my vocals. So there you have it. Zoop, zoop. I kind of like that every once in a while, just for emphasis. So that's something that you can do. Pre-delay is another thing that I like to do. And here it is. This is not necessarily a good trial version of it, but at the end of the bridge, I have this. Let's see. So what I did was I took this Saint, right? I just took the very beginning of that Saint by the Father for the Sent by the Father, right? And when I did that, I'll zoom in and show you. Okay, so I took this guy, Saint by the right? Okay, so I copied that, put it on its own track. I added just Saint, not Saint by the, okay, Saint, and then I would reverse it, and then add a delay to it. Saint, or Saint, whatever kind of delay you want, and reverb. And then I would bounce that, and then I reverse that, and then this is what I have. Got it? So you add that to it, and let's see if I can't get that up a little bit. This is probably the worst version of it I've done, but I'm wondering if I did a pan version as well. Let me see my pan. No, I didn't have a pan. Okay, no automation. Okay, so I then automated it from, yeah, that's what I did. I automated it. Let's look at the panning now. This is panning right here, and see that? It goes from the left to the right. So I'm going to turn it up just for now, just so you can hear it loud. It's going to be not going to be this loud in the mix. It's just so glitchy right now. You have to imagine what it sounds like, but essentially it sounds like this. In the mix, it'll sound better when I'm not recording on 3 devices at once. So you get the idea there. That pre-delay is a fun thing. Spectral effects, bringing it up and down, and doing that. We did that with, you can actually hear it in this song. Let's hear. In the song Outsiders, is just look it up, okay? Ultimately, perfection is the goal. Be holy, for I am holy, not just in our walk with God, but in everything we do for Him. Unblemished lamb is what God wants us to offer it to Him. Unblemished song is what I try to do at my absolute best. It's not about sacrifice, though, guys. It's about the heart. It's about the attitude. It's about doing it for the Lord, bringing the right thing to the altar. Psalm 40 says, and I'm ending with this and going to questions, you put a new song in my heart. Where did that song come from? God. God's singing over you. Use it for Him. Create it. Make it flawless. Glorify Him with it, the way that He glorifies Himself with His other creation, whether it's a glacier, whether it's a mountain, whether it's a wave, whether it's a forest. It glorifies Him. Use this. Use your best to glorify Him. And that is the Masterclass. Let's get to the questions. What do we got? Let me see here. Stopping the share for now and going to Q&A. Here we go. Jamie K. I do very diverse styles, so my fans will love one, then hate the next, because I have a piano solo album, emotive, calling music, and then Christian hip-hop, Cardi B style, and most recent release, how do you be creative and true to yourself, but find success with your fans between albums? Oh, man, that's a tough one. Yeah, I know that. I looked you up, actually. and I saw that. I was like, okay, well, that's very different. We have dub albums, and then we have Avion singing on albums. We have me chatting on albums. Be who God's called you to be. There's no boilerplate template for anything that we're doing in life. It should be true to that vision. But I will say that just like how a dollar bill has this this thread, a $20 bill has this kind of silver thread going from top to bottom. Your stuff, I mean, when you hear a new Christafari song, if you're a fan and you don't know who it is, you should know pretty quickly, within the first 30 seconds, who that is. It should still sound like you. So find that. I mean, U2 has changed over the years, but they're still U2. Dylan has changed over the years, not that much, but he's still Dylan. So find that voice. And it took me a long time to do that. So don't be hard on yourself over that. And I will say some artists like Toby Mac, I mean, from doing grunge when Nirvana was popular to doing this, to doing that, he's more of a pop artist. And so he kind of does the bandwagon. Now he's doing EDM. Maybe, I mean, he still has figured out a way to find his voice amidst different genres. Danny asked this, Pastor Mark, I'm still looking for my musical identity. What is the closest way to get there? I listen to classical music from rap, but still nothing. I think that's the same question, same answer. Ask God to reveal it to you, and he'll give you songs, he'll give you ideas, and I would say just be true to them. But when you're doing so, don't try and imitate somebody else's inspiration. You guys, most of these ideas that I have here, I just came up with randomly, and I didn't come up with randomly. I believe God gave me that inspiration. And so stay true. Abide in him. When you abide in the vine, when you stay attached to the the branches are attached to the stem of the plant, which are attached to the roots, you will bear fruit. Now, what is that fruit? Is it souls or is it sales? Maybe God wants you to be a professional shower singer. Maybe he wants you to sing for your kid. Maybe he wants you to sing in a choir. I don't know. But do it to the best of your ability with him, and do your best to get that success. But ultimately, the growth, the provision comes from the Lord. So I would encourage you to seek first his kingdom, his righteousness. All these things will be added unto you. Jamie K. I've switched to trying releasing singles instead of an album. Strongly recommend that because of how society consumes music now. That's great. Do you feel albums are still listened to as a whole by consumers? I'm still trying to figure that out. Some say yes, some say no. I research this stuff all the time. And you can get a YouTube that says, this is why you need to do an album. And a YouTube that'll say, this is why you need to do singles. I would just say do something consistently. The Beatles are my kind of inspiration when it comes to releasing. They would release a single and or a video every single month. An album, these are shorter play albums, 2 times a year. And they kept going, and they kept touring. And they have the most number ones of all. And so I think that they did it right. They obviously their videos were actually, clips for movies that they made for movies, but definitely would recommend that you keep producing. One thing that kills me is when an artist has a great song but doesn't release it. Another thing that kills me is when an artist has a hit song and doesn't follow it up quickly, because that 15 seconds of fame disappears quickly. Elvis asked this, would it be good to use a program like LMMS? Anybody know what LMMS is? I have no idea.
Me neither.
It says online it's a digital audio workstation. It's an application program. It's just another, I think, DAW that integrates synthesizing MIDI.
Yeah. If I've never heard of it, I would say if you have to, but we're actually looking for a studio producer for us, somebody that can help carry this load that I'm carrying and Justin's carrying and Times are carrying and Connor's carrying. If you're interested in joining us and you're willing to move to California or live in California, hit me up. If you want to be a musicianary, do this to serve the Lord wholeheartedly. And what I'm doing here isn't foreign to you. If you live in America. Regrettably, visas are not possible to get at this juncture. So that's something that we are definitely looking for in all of this. As I'm looking at different people who are sending in applications, some are using Fruity Loops, some we know Ableton, some know Nuendo, some know Cubase, some know, you know what, it just matters that you know how to use it. And you can learn that from YouTube tutorials. What do you mean bounce down to one stereo? Well, I'll show you. So I'm going to pull this up, and while I'm showing you, if you could read off the next question, that would be great. Share screen.
Yeah, Gyro's asking, could you talk about mastering music, and at what level is this necessary?
Anytime something gets released, it needs to be mastered. Mastered means. Okay, let me. One second.
Jesus said to them,
Okay, this is the end of the song, right? Let's take this section. Let's take the chat. Sorry.
Sent by the Father, sent by the Son, and sent by the Holy Ghost. Sent by the King of creation, and sent.
See how it's off right now? Because it's just dodgy right now. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this whole section. I'm saving. Anytime I do something, I'm going to do Control J, which is my command for bouncing, and I'm just going to make it a WAV file. I prefer WAV over anything else, and I'm just going to say bounce test, right? And I'm going to, in this case, just click it, and there you have it. Okay, so it's bouncing right now as I'm doing that. Mastering is essentially trying to make what you hear in the studio sound good in earpods. Oh, digital performer just force quit.
Oh boy.
Oh, that stuff happens. That's why I saved. So bouncing to, I'm going back and forth. When I bounce something like this or this or this, it's stereo, meaning that it is not mono. It's not one channel. It's left and right, but it's a stereo pair. So that's what that is. Okay. Now mastering, it's to make the sound, the songs uniform in compression, uniform in volume. You want the floor at the right place, the ceiling at the right place, so there's no peaking, so there's no clipping, the right EQ, the right everything. Like I said, it's like a hyper EQing compression so that it sounds good no matter where you play it. And that's something I love about our mastering. I don't do it myself. Our old guitarist Solomon Jabby does it. I would recommend never do your own mastering until you know what you're doing. But typically when somebody mixes and records, they oftentimes have somebody else do the final master. It's just a way of having it pass through somebody else's hands, because you may like bass way too loud or way too soft. Jamie K, by the way, Jamie, you're just a A+ student right now. Thank you for all your questions. Do you ever want to take down your first or second album because you don't like the first one anymore? Of course I do. What artist would ever say, no, keep it up? But here's the thing. Then there are those people who say, man, I liked CHRISTAFARI's first album better, or their second album, or they're this, or they're that. And they always come to me from time to time. Comment comes up on YouTube saying, how come you changed this, or how come you this, or how come you that? Just have to take a deep breath and remind myself. They were probably in youth camp when they first heard that album. They were probably having this crush, and they were just in love with this person, so they thought, and everything was just incredible. And when they heard that song, it takes them back to that moment. And chances are, whatever album they heard first is their favorite, or the next one, or whatever. But if that person were to then play that song, and then our or your latest song, comparing the old with the new, they'd almost always, if they were to play it for a friend, that friend would always be like, the new one's so much better. Usually that's how it is. I have to remind myself of that. But with that in mind, though, I think that the new stuff we're doing is better or more advanced or more this or more that or more technically correct or whatever or more diverse. God gave me that inspiration. God gave me this inspiration. God inspired. And I don't want to spit in that. So I liken it to this, Jamie. A high school senior picture. You may be like, oh man, my bangs were just banging on that day and the zit on my face and my braces or this or that. But it was the best of you at that moment. That's what each song is. The best of you at that moment. I definitely don't look like my high school picture. Go and grab it. High school picture. I had the spiky hair.
The one on the front? With the
blue background with the little, yeah, I think I had a little tie on. I definitely don't look like my high school photo, but it was the best of me at that moment, and it captured who I was, and my parents still have it up. So in the same way, each song should be the best of who you are at the time. That's why we should do so with excellence, without compromise. But don't look back at your old stuff and say, this sucks. I mean, occasionally, if I could go back and retune my stuff, I would. Okay. So yeah, there's that answer. I wouldn't take it down because somebody out there, it's going to be their favorite. Okay. I used to sing with my band. But now after 9 years, I understand by God that I have to start like a soloist. Some advice on that. Great question. Yeah. There we go. This is me, 17 years old. Sorry, those reflections are horrible. Can you believe that's me? Here's another one of me. Pet chickens. See, yeah, I'm not that person anymore, but I am that person. And I wouldn't be who I am now if that wasn't me back in the day. So be proud of who that is, who that was, but just make sure that from here on out, as you release stuff, make it in with excellence. As for Jerome's Pena's question, if God's calling you to be solo, do it. God called me to do that. It was very, very tough. Find a good support system. Find some good advisors, people that can encourage you, people that can prod you on, push you forward. Being in a band is a very hard thing. Being solo is very hard. It's all on your shoulders now. But give those things to God when you do, okay? Do you find producers word of mouth or their phone book? Do I find them through word of mouth or their phone book? How much are producer fees usually? Great question. Word of mouth, asking around. Find something you like that was produced by somebody. Ask them what they thought. Go to the artist. How was it working with this person? Would you recommend them? I'm this kind of music. I'm this, I'm that. What are their fees? What are their rates? Ask those questions. I wish I had done that before, working with certain people. In fact, I was actually the one producer that I had so many problems with. I was warned, this person's like this, but they're a genius. I got the this and I got the genius. So word of mouth is a great thing. I would also write it out, what you're going to agree on, whatever it is, even if it's just a text or just like, hey, okay, when you sit down with a person, okay, hey, what are the terms? Okay, do you mind if I record this, or can we at least write this down and agree so that we're on the same page? A righteous man keeps his word even when it hurts. So I would do so by vetting that person thoroughly before I bring them on to produce. And producer fees can be depends. Sometimes they get points, which means a certain amount of money per album sold. After the album recoups, like typically 2 points, sometimes 4 points. Another thing that producers get is the budget, and then they work within that and pay themselves. Some producers or engineers, depending, charge you per hour. I've heard $50. I've heard $75 an hour. I've heard more. And some some per song, depending. But I would say a safe rate. It all depends on where you live too. You know, in Trinidad, you may be able to get a song for $500. In Guatemala, that may be $250. In America, it may be $2,500. I remember when we were hiring Scott Blackwell to do a jungle song, that kind of thing, for our Valley of Decision album. He charged $5,000. I remember calling some top Jamaican producers, asking how much they charged. $25,000 per track. I was like, what the heck? It's a racket. So it all depends on what it's worth, what the budget is. The budget for our first album, $35,000. Label paid for that. Second album, $75,000. Label paid for that. Third album, $100,000. Label paid for that. When I went solo, the album budget for Word, Sound, and Power was $30,000. I had to pay somebody to mix it, and to do a dub version of it, and I had to pay for the studio time. Now, these albums cost us nothing but our time, and time is money. Time is money. So keep that in mind as well. Each song, 7 days. Just block out 7 days for it. Okay, Gyro, have you guys thought of making a song in 8D so we can feel it like in the middle of the band, just for having the experience of Christafari? That's the second time I've heard that. I'd like to look into that, but I have not thought about it. I have not tried it yet. I know that this studio is not set up to mix that way, so I would have to pay somebody a pretty penny to do that, which would make me ask if people are mostly listening to music on phones or earpods, is it advantageous for me to spend that much to do that? Which is your favorite Christafari album? Is it your favorite because of production or because of the songs? You have 10 kids. Which is your favorite? Kill the rest. No, you can't answer that question. Come on. It's a ridiculous question. The most recent one, the one that hasn't been recorded yet. That's my answer. The one that hasn't been recorded yet, because there's so much possibility, and because it makes my soul sing. Interesting thing, when I'm writing songs, I have ideas that just keep going, and the song's playing in my head all day long. I don't listen to music. I listen to God playing it for me. And then I have to excavate and uncover and figure out what direction it's going. But I stop singing the song. It stops playing in my head the second it's been recorded, and it never plays again. So my favorite song, favorite album, it's what's playing in my head right now. JBK, I make money as a video game composer and nothing off of my Christian albums. Yeah, that's about right. The world would call my Christian music a hobby, but it's my heart to do it well as a Christian artist. And albums you mentioned you release at beginning of tour to promote it. Okay, but it's my heart to do well as a Christian artist. And albums you mentioned you release at the beginning of a tour to promote it. Yeah. Okay, so I feel like this is a comment and a question, and then we're going to end because I got to go to the beach. I write my songs at the beach. Any other questions, post them quick. And I will answer as quick as possible. Yes, I mentioned in the promotion class to try and do things in threes. So I typically will release an album, launch a tour, and do a music video at once. When you can do three things at once, you get more bang for your buck, more growth, more impact. So that's what I would do. As for it being a hobby, well, hobby is what brings you pleasure. It's what you would do on your downtime. That's what I do. This is my problem. When I want to take a Sabbath, I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't want to just sit around and watch Netflix all day long. I want to have fun. How do I have fun? I record. Guess I'm going back to the studio. There's nothing wrong with it being a hobby. It's great. If you don't make money off of it, just don't stop recording. Don't do it for the money. Do it for His glory. Audience of one. And that is our masterclass. Thanks so much for participating. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you donate today, if you've been blessed by this, if you believe in Christafari's ministry, if you believe that we should continue to offer things like this for free for anybody who wants to, would you please partner with us today? And I'm going to ask on behalf of my family, my daughter, my wife, would you partner with us? Would you partner with Justin? You can donate to Christafari, the most needed fund. You can donate to Mark and Avion. You can donate to Justin. When you do so with a smile. Give with a grateful heart. God will provide for you. He will take care of you. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you.